Wir sind live.
Live? Muss ich hier noch einmal durchlaufen, dann.
Aber in der Meier steht BL. Deswegen kann ich
Audio ist auch gut.
Wir warten noch 5 Minuten. We'll take 5 minutes. Okay? Just to give people a chance to. To give Anne-Catherine a chance to actually get some more people here. I think so. We'll talk to Mac.
taking 2 more minutes in case more students arrive. So we stick to the agreed starting time. Good, I think we are set. I haven't seen anyone else arriving, but the doors are of course still open. So from my side, a very warm welcome on behalf of the International Office. Some of you might already know me. My name is Anne-Kathrin Lauer. I am the Country Unit Advisor for Africa and Asia Pacific. And I feel very honored to welcome our guest Kanejo Mokosi from our partner university, Nelson Mandela University in Port Elizabeth. Thank you very much for coming here, even due to the different location. I know that the International Week is mostly taking place in the building of the Faculty of Business Administration. So we are so grateful, and I give my word to our guest. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you very much for being here today. My name is Kanejo Mokosi. And thank you very much for pronouncing my name very well. So most people do struggle with that. So I'm the manager for international partnerships at Nelson Mandela University in South Africa. So I want this to be a bit of an interactive session. So because I want to give, first of all, a general overview of the South African higher education, and then drill that down to Nelson Mandela University. When one speaks of South Africa, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? First thing that comes to your mind when one speaks of South Africa? Anyone?
Cape Town?
Cape Town? Anyone?
The White Shark?
The White Shark?
Yeah.
Anyone?
Nature?
Nature? Anyone?
Good red wine.
Red wine. Red wine. Yes.
For me as well.
Wine. Okay. Thank you very much. Any other negative thing that springs to your mind when you speak of South Africa? Yes?
Negatively, I would say, thinking about South Africa in comparison with Johannesburg, that it's dangerous.
Dangerous? Yes.
Maybe power shortage?
Power shortages? Yes. Anyone? So mostly when we speak of our countries, I know that some people wouldn't want to delve into the negative aspects of our countries, but for us, this is in imperative that we do that. We have got a lot of positives, but we also do have a lot of negatives. But we need to also understand that South Africa is a young country, 28 years old at this present moment. So we really learn by doing and by trying. So it is important therefore that we interact with people. They show us what they know about our country, what is it that makes them want to visit, or what is it that makes them not want to visit our country. So every country in the world has got its own negative and positives, and we do embrace that as South Africans, and we are open to talk about our negatives. And this is a very important lesson, of course, coming from our own transition from apartheid to democracy. We have learned to talk, to have conversations with one another about all the things, negative and positives, and what is it that we would need to do as a country to move forward. So this is a map of South Africa. 60 million population in South Africa, 9 provinces. You have far north, Zimbabwe, you have got northwest, Botswana, Mozambique, you have got Eswatini here, and you've got Lesotho here, and you've got Namibia. These are all the states that are bordered in South Africa. So we've got 11 official languages in South Africa. I know that some of you would, of course, know that Afrikaans and English are some of our languages, but we do have 9 more languages. And the majority of South Africans speak 2 or more languages, and which is up to 90, or in fact 90% of the population can speak up to 2 or more languages. I speak 10, so I'm very fortunate. So we've got 26 universities in South Africa. Some of these universities are as young as 8 years, formed in 2014. So these are the University of Mpumalanga and University of Salt Lake University. So it is only these 2 provinces, the Northern Cape and Mpumalanga here, that did not have universities in South Africa. So all the rest of the provinces had universities. So it's only now that in 2014 the universities were established in this region. So we've got over 50 technical and vocational education training colleges with over 200 campuses countrywide. And English is mainly the language of instruction in most of our universities, if not all. So some universities, for instance, like Stellenbosch, would have in Western Cape would have dual medium of instruction being Afrikaans and English. So the majority of these universities have had dual medium. It's only that some of the language policy was passed in South Africa and the dual medium of instruction was jettisoned. So the history of South African university system or higher education is embedded in colonialism. So South Africa was a colony of Britain for a very long time. So the first college that was established in South Africa was the South African College, which later became University of Cape Town in 1918. So it was established in 1829. So other universities that were established are... Yes. So the Northwest University merged, I think, in 2003-4. It was called Port Elizabeth Christian Education College, and then we have got us here, Nelson Mandela University, formed in 1882 as Port Elizabeth Art School, and you've got the first black institution that was formed in 1916 in South Africa. So by virtue of the formation of this institution, and because we were a colony, you will understand that most of these universities, even at inception, had a certain international footprint. So for instance, when the first college was started, the examiners of everything that the South African College did were from the University of London. So apart from these universities that I've showed you, the other ones were later, they later came about in 1959, going forward. So I guess we all know the history of South Africa with regard to apartheid. But apartheid as a policy of racial segregation in South Africa became about in 1948. So when this policy came, there were a lot of academic boycotts for South African universities. So basically, when apartheid came, a majority of universities in the world, of course, couldn't actually collaborate with South African institutions because they would have been seen to be collaborating with apartheid. So, but of course, there were possibilities that there could be, of course, universities that were clandestinely collaborating with universities in South Africa. So, South African internationalization, or the internationalization, began to take root after the 1994 transition, when apartheid ended and democracy reigned in South Africa. But because of so many years of apartheid and colonialism, the South African higher education was a bit inward looking, in a sense that for them to be able to do away with the legacies of the past, they had to deal with issues of transformation and issues of decolonization. So basically, apartheid was not just a social policy, it was also an economic and educational policy, in a sense that before this period, 1994, black people in the country were only allowed to register in universities for certain degrees. You couldn't register for any degrees. You were registering for a degree that allowed you the possibility to can be an interpreter for the white people in the country, or you can be a teacher for black people in the homelands. So that is how far the education of the black people in South Africa went. So after 1994, there was that need to transform the South African academy. And even today, debates about decolonization and transformation are actually reigning in the country, forming a large part of the academic debates in the South African higher education sector. So this is the most important aspect of understanding where South Africa came from and where South Africa seeks to go in as far as its internationalization footprint is concerned. So after 1994, of course, South African universities could have partners the world over. And also, a lot of national governments could then be able to enter into agreements with South Africa as a government and be able to trade and do a lot of other things, because the country was now a democracy and no longer a pariah state. So this is where we locate Germany within the context of the evolution of South Africa as a state. So it's very important to understand this if we are to understand the particular interests and the particular internationalization that South Africa and Germany have pursued over the period of time. So basically, right now, Germany is South Africa's second largest trading partner. So, but the history and the relationship, I do not think, between Germany and South Africa spans only from the 1994s. There is a long history of German expatriates that have long lived in South Africa since the 17th and 18th century. So there are a lot. The majority of them were incorporated into the Afrikaner grouping. So you have surnames like Liebenberg, as a few Afrikaners or Germans that are now have been subsumed into the Afrikaner grouping of people and are calling themselves Afrikaner. And if you look generally, where we come from in the Eastern Cape, most of the city names were named after the Germans. We've got Berlin as well in South Africa. We've got Hogsburg. We've got Heilbronn. We've got Heidelberg. So all these actually indicate that there were still a lot of interactions that have happened between the Germans and the South Africans. The most interesting thing, even there has been a bit of cultural appropriation from the side of Africans with regard to garments. There is a certain garment in South Africa that is worn by newly married brides. So this garment is actually, we didn't know this, but we come to know this as we are busy interacting with German. And when we look at some of the museum and the history, we come to realize that this actually has been a long German garments and way of clothing that we have expropriated, and unfortunately we are not returning that. So it's ours, thank you. So the relationship right now between Germany and South Africa is very multifaceted. It's a relationship that has got a lot of components to it, and you cannot single out one component as more important than the other. But then within the spectrum of importance, these are actually the areas of cooperation that Germany is mostly involved with South Africa. So from the period 1994 until this time, at the national government level, there have been 72 agreements that have been signed between Germany and South Africa. There have been exchanges in terms of skills development, skills transfer within the context of these agreements. So the last agreement that was signed was in 2019, and this was a technical cooperation in vocational training. So basically, if you look at the higher education system in South Africa, around between 2000 and 2003, there was a fact-finding mission that the South African higher education system or ministry embarked on. So basically, to try to diversify and to try to actually learn from other contexts. So that the results of that fact-finding mission was the mergers of universities in South Africa. And these mergers actually, if you look at the nature of these relationships, they are actually following in the footsteps of German higher education system. You have research universities, technical universities, applied science universities, and so forth and so forth. So even at municipal and provincial level, these relationships are still going on, which is very much important, because in most instances where I've traveled, I've realized that we are not really doing enough as South Africans to tap into government-to-government relations that exist between us and other countries to be able to build the programs that are there. So now South Africa is embarking on a just transition process to be able to deal with the challenges of load shedding. So Germany is one of the largest investors in that program. But my biggest worry has been that even after that investment, universities between the two countries have not really been intentional and purposeful in aligning their cooperation along the lines of these investments that are happening in just energy transition. And I think it will be important that as we structure our relationship, we need to purposely look at how we position our universities to be able to exploit the challenges, the opportunities of cooperation that are there within the just energy transition with regard to, or in a need to augment the work that we are doing. So I think this is one of the most important facts that we need to consider. So, our location. So I'm quite sure that because of our namesake as a university, Nelson Mandela University, a lot of you know Nelson Mandela or have heard about him. So our namesake is quite a very historic figure, which championed the reconciliation and social justice in the country. So as a country, this is where we are, as a university, this is where we are located, right at this point in Port Elizabeth, within the province of the Eastern Cape. So Eastern Cape is largely a rural province. The majority of people in the Eastern Cape speak Xhosa as a language as their mother tongue, but we also have a sizable number of people that are speaking Afrikaans and also English. So Eastern Cape in itself has got around about 4 universities. So Nelson Mandela is one of those universities. So we are a comprehensive university as Nelson Mandela, which means we are endowed with the opportunity to almost do everything within the spectrum of the education system of South Africa. We are engaging in research, applied research, we are engaged in teaching, we are engaged in vocational training somehow, and then a lot of other opportunities. But Nelson Mandela University is situated in a town called Gqeberha. So this was previously called Port Elizabeth. So this area here is called Summerstrand in Port Elizabeth, and I'm sure, and Catherine, you actually were booked somewhere around these these hotels here. So this is a very beautiful and scenic city. Of course, everywhere we go, when we are talking about our university and our country, issues of crime actually are bound to be raised, because if you look at this beautiful city, almost everyone would want to visit this beautiful city, and the weather here, I promise you, is quite good. The weather is quite good. The beaches are quite good, very scenic. So I'm quite sure that if you visit, a lot of you will want to visit over and over again. So we have over time received a lot of guests from these universities around the world. We have received over time a lot of students from Germany, for instance, which is our greatest partner or biggest in terms of the number of students that we receive or we have received from the beginning. It's also, Germany as a country is also an important contributor to our student exchanges and study abroad exchanges. So there is crime in South Africa, that is true, but from my own perspective, from our own perspective as the international office, we are doing as much as we can to sensitize visitors coming to Nelson Mandela University to say, look, to orientate you, to say, look, this is where you can go, this is where you can't go. But we have never, in all the years of operations and interacting with international visitors, had incidences of crime that actually affected our students and our visitors. Of course, I speak under correction. It might be that this has happened that we do not know about. And we are admitting to that fact that maybe it has. But Summerstrand or Port Elizabeth in itself is actually a bit of a quiet city. There may be crime, but it's not really prevalent. Of course, there may be opportunistic issues here and there, but it's not really prevalent where we come from. So this is actually our South Campus. This is our main campus. So the international office is somewhere around here in Nelson Mandela University. Oh, no, I'm wrong. So here is the international office in Nelson Mandela University. So this is our library. This is our main administrative building. So there are 7 campuses in the university. I mean, in 6 campuses in Port Elizabeth, in Quebeca as a whole. We've got 6 campuses. Just closer to our South Campus is our North Campus, but we also have 2nd Avenue, we have Bed Street, we have our George Campus. George Campus is somewhere 300 kilometers outside of Port Elizabeth on what is called the Garden Route. Those of you who like touring, if you come to Mandela, please remind us to take you through to the George Campus for the scenic views and mountains that you are going to enjoy. So, our campus is actually situated in a nature reserve. I think we are the only campus in the country that is situated in a nature reserve. So, you get the best of both worlds. So as you're sitting in the main administration building, on this side of the building, you are watching surfers, you're watching fishers in the ocean, and on the other side, you are watching the beauty of nature. So we do have, of course, a lot of monkeys, very naughty monkeys, and we encourage our visitors not to feed the monkeys. We encourage them to always put your belongings closer to your chest, because we can be accused of crime in Nelson Mandela, we agree, but sometimes it's important to know that even our monkeys are doing that, and you may confuse that to the people in Port Elizabeth. That's a possibility. So, over the years, our partners have really enjoyed coming to our university, and this has been one of the most interesting thing about the university. So, as a university, Nelson Mandela, we have long established history of collaboration with German University. Just a few weeks ago, or just last week, we were celebrating our 25th anniversary partnership with the University of Oldenburg in Germany. And I can't really quantify the number of students that we have received over the years from this university. It's quite massive. So we have over 50 partnerships with German universities. So, and most of the focus of this has been student exchanges and student mobility. So that was the focus. And we are, of course, hosting students as a result of that. But also, apart from this element of student mobility, we are coming with a strategy as Nelson Mandela University to purposefully diversify the scope of cooperation in our partnership. So sometimes when we engage in student exchanges, it's all good and well, but we need to inject into this partnership some other elements that would ensure that the partnership are sustained even outside of student exchanges. So we have come to recognize that over the years we have had a lot of partners, and when the student exchange component stops, the partnership stops. And there is lots of time, of resources that we have actually invested as partners in the creation of this partnership. So it is important now that we are looking at some of these elements. Of course, we are not prescriptive in how we are looking at diversifying our partnership. We understand that when you're working in an institution of higher learning, for instance, or in a higher education institution, you really cannot force anyone, especially academics, to do whatever you want them to do. So academics, highly educated people, have got their own agency in terms of knowing what they need to do, and our job is to enable the work that they do, to support it, but also to guide it, to say, look, these are the other opportunities that you can do within the context of this partnership that can work very well. So hence we have, over the years, engaged in the process of co-teaching with our partner universities, and this is very, very important, even if it's virtual co-teaching. For us, it's very important because to build the sustainability of any partnership, of any relationship that you would want, you need to also have, as the most foundational basis of that relationship, you need to have the interaction between lecturers from different universities. So it is only the lecturers that are going to be able to sustain this relationship. And we put so much value in Nelson Mandela for our partners, of our lecturers and researchers to be able to establish these partnerships. We understand the value of that has been created by the advantages that were created by the COVID-19 pandemic with regard to virtual mobility, virtual teaching, and all other aspects of digitalization. But we still put more premium on relationship building, person-to-person relationship building. The visits are very important to us because this is where you are able to create the relationship. This is where you are able to know and understand what the needs of your partners are. Of course, with a structured 1-hour meeting on a virtual platform, it's not really necessary to delve into your personal experiences. You are only, the limitation that is imposed by the time forces you to actually look only on the professional aspect of the work that you will be doing in that setting. But if you are in person, you go to lunch together, you have got a whole spectrum of things you can discuss, you can connect from a personal level, academic level, and any other level that will be necessary for the sustenance, maintenance, and building of relations, which is very, very important. For us in Nelson Mandela University, we believe that, like Nelson Mandela, we believe that person-to-person connection is very important. We believe that it is only the humanizing aspect of this connection, person-to-person connections, that will be able to create the kind of relationship that we want and to sustain the relationships that we want. But we are actually a very, very fun people in South Africa. Fun-loving, to be honest. And this is also some of the things that we are trying to sell as a country. We are fun-loving. We understand that people are different, which is important. But for us, our education system is also structured on entertainment. There is value in entertainment. You are able to meet people and connect with them on a personal level through entertainment. And you are able to do a lot of other things through entertainment that otherwise could not be possible within a structured academic setting. So this is important, and I would like to really emphasize the value of this. So right now in South Africa, for instance, we are the biggest exporter of modern day dance. So you can go to YouTube, Google Amapiano. That is a South African music genre. So you would find that all over the world, people are dancing to that music. All over the world are dancing to that music. You will find South African teachers dancing to that music with their students inside classrooms. You would find students outside of classrooms dancing to that music. So this is very important for us. This is very important because we come from a very sad history, but we have come to a point where as a country we understand and we know that that history that we come from does not define us as a people. There is more actually that connects us as a people. Hence, it is very important as well for us to be able to connect with other people because we have learned the value of connecting with people through a whole lot of other things that we are able to do. So this is very important for us. So I was actually looking. Maybe this is something that, of course, you can look at or not, of course. But I was actually looking at the creation of the Internationalization Week in Nuremberg, which is a very nice concept. But for me, what became more of a question was, throughout this week, the university has been able to connect people from different walks of life, people who share some research interest, same research interest in sustainability and other issues. They have come to the university to lecture. And then some I will be leaving today, some tomorrow, and the others on Saturday. But then my question was, if you have put together this group, created this camaraderie that is now existing between this group, when these people leave, what then happens? Are we going to wait for the Internationalization Week next year in order for other people or the same people to come and congregate? This was just my question, because I have seen the value that such a group can do, especially you've got people from Ireland, people from Estonia, Argentina, Brazil, Poland, South Africa. So these people have got different knowledge backgrounds. Some are bringing the knowledge that was previously disregarded, that was in the periphery of the knowledge economy, especially those people from the South. And it will be important that within that context, we look at creating a community of practice within these people that have been here. We look at having virtual meetings. We look at how, even though it's important for them to have the Internationalization Week to come and present, but to be looking at papers, for instance, that they can co-write, so that by the next Internationalization Week, there is a certain output that has been generated by coming here. They can co-publish. They can think of doing joint offering of programs. They can think of co-supervision of students. And within these components, you are able to build other things. You are able the activities are able to snowball into other things, to look at funding opportunities that are there and see what is it that you can do. This is a boon that I do not think your university should let slide, because we have seen from Nelson Mandela University the value of doing that. We have seen that once you have this group together, then it's easy now for Dr. Robinson to write to Gustavo or to Christian and say, look, I was looking at this, can we do a comparative perspective on sustainability in Brazil, South Africa, in Germany, in Poland, and then something is created from that. And then now, when you are having students that are supervising for masters or PhD, that are doing work in this field that your colleagues are doing, we are able to say, look, within the context especially of us as South African, there's a look, I've got a student who's doing this. It will be nice for him to have a comparative perspective of what your country offers, and from this, you can be the co-supervisor of these students. So I think we really, really need to look at that to create a community of practice, and even if we find a program that throughout these years, this community will be able to rotate to these different countries, to be able to do their research, to have their workshop, to have their seminars rotating within this community that is created, it becomes worthwhile, but also means that the investment that you are putting in bringing people to Nuremberg is not really lost when they leave. There's also something that over the years they are able to give back to the university, to give back to the community. I think this is something that we really need to look at because it is possible, and we really need to do that. So I can see that I've been a little bit very fast, so this is my last slide, for instance. So Nelson Mandela University, we have done excellent work in internationalization. We have tried to diversify the traditional focus of our university's internationalization. We no longer looking at student exchange as the founding matrix of our system. If you look at all these joint projects that I've listed, these are just a few projects. In each and every project here, there is a student mobility component. In each and every one of these, there is a students are able to travel in both directions, but there is also co-supervision in internationalization, internationalizing teacher education. There is co-authorship of papers within each and every one of these elements. And I think this is what we have been able to do with some of our partner universities. We have looked at marine and coastal PhD and postdoc mentoring programs. We have looked at ICT programs that we have been able to do with our partner university, but this started with elements of student exchanges. The good thing about internationalization is that you do not really need to start very big. You can start with the exchange of one student. You can start connecting one or two researchers in different universities. And it is from that connection, the work that the colleagues are doing, that you are able to build from it, you are able to spread it to other fields. The ambition is not really to have a project that is going to start with 20, 50 people. You are going to need 5 or 4 million euros to do it. You start very small, and this is important, and this requires as well patience. This requires patience to understand that the work that you are doing today in the next 10 to 15 years is going to be able to benefit not just you who started it, but there will be other people who are in the faculty of business, who are in the psychology, that are going to be enjoying the benefits of the relationship that was started by someone in engineering. So I know that because of our program or programmatic boundaries, we really do not think of this as such. We really think that from engineering, then the work that we have to do has to borrow into that field and not really extend into others. But there are opportunities now that we can be able to do this. And this doesn't require a lot of money. So it requires, first of all, the will of the people to want to connect, because at the end of the day, it's not really okay that we send students to South Africa, they come back, do their programs, but they have not been incorporated into some of the programs that are going to impact their research thinking, that are going to actually interest them to want to do research in a particular field. So it's important that these connections are able to open the minds of the students, interest them to look at other areas of the work that they can do that they did not otherwise think of. So this is very important. So at Nelson Mandela University, this is just a synopsis. Of course, the projects that we are doing are a lot and funded by a lot of agencies. The DAAD is funding, I think, the creation of a German South African Center of Excellence in Educational Research Methodology, and also IceCare and EcoSolar. These are funded by the DAAD, but there are a whole gamut of other funding agencies that are involved, both from South Africa and from Germany. So the mistake that we often do in internationalization is to not connect people and wait for a call of application to come out and then start thinking then that you are going to apply and get a call. It's not really realistic. You need to have a certain background of the work that you are doing in a certain field. You need to have connected with partners that you know exactly these are going to be able to deliver on this project. And this has to start with the student-to-student connection, lecturer-to-lecturer connection, and then build on from there. So this is, in a nutshell, what I came to give you today. But I think we have a few minutes. We are open for questions, and it's important that we engage. It's important that we exchange our views and our ideas around this. But it's also important, especially as students, to ask me questions and even raise concerns. If you want to come to Nelson Mandela about anything that you would want to know, it's very important. And we would be very happy to have you. Sometimes people say our hospitality is exaggerated, but it's really not. It's just who we are as a people. So thank you very much. I can take questions and comments from now.
That's the German academic clapping.
Yes, I've noticed that. I've noticed that.
So, any question? First of all, thank you very much for this in-depth insight on Nelson Mandela University and cooperation between South Africa and Germany in higher education. It was truly insightful, and I think it really combined the information to the students as well as to the academics and other employees by Nuremberg Tech very well, truly well. So I give the word to everybody who is here, also raising concerns or any comments.
Thank you very much. I understand that actually then if you look at South Africa-Germany cooperation, it's actually a very huge concept that it will take a lot of, it actually requires a 6 months lecture on its own. But then I had to pick up the most important highlights from this cooperation, because if you look at, for instance, I'm a political scientist by training, so my focus is most importantly on political history, and therefore what from the history we can do to inform the future. So hence my presentation has been structured along those lines. But I understand that there are, of course, other perspectives that we can take. I'm very much open to learning because that's the only way we grow as human beings. So, any questions, any comment? So, who amongst you here wants to come to South Africa? Oh, Brian, first, sorry.
Hi, sorry, I'm from Nelson Mandela University, so I should actually know. But I'm just thinking, students coming to the university for a semester or something like that, are they able to get into development projects as a sort of, you know, just an outreach element of their visit. I mean, we've got so many areas within Nelson Mandela Bay that have real developmental problems and poverty and inequality and all these ills that we have in our society. Can students contribute in some way to that while they are in the country?
Oh, yes. Basically, in Nelson Mandela University, we tend to, I'm not sure whether this is still legislative, it's not really legislatively permitted, but we do have an option of internships that we offer to international students, but then these internships has to be on community-based projects that the university is doing with, the university's engagement unit is doing with communities. But then there will be, of course, certain fields like nursing that won't be easy. The health sciences, especially because of the attended ethics requirements that are needed, they won't be easy. But in general, we do have students that are coming to Nelson Mandela University just to do their internships in community-based projects. So we do have at this moment students from Norway that are doing, they are in social work. So they are doing an internship program with community-based organizations in Mission Bay. That's where our medical school is. So we do have that aspect, but we are trying to be more intentional now, working with our engagement unit to try to be purposeful about doing some of these things, because in most instances you would know that the focus of the international office was just on student and staff, teaching staff, but we are trying in Nelson Mandela to internationalize almost every aspect of our university. We want to make sure that the community engagement, because community engagement is also a huge part of the university's mission, or it's called the third mission. So we are trying to purposefully ensure that for students that are coming to Nelson Mandela University, we are linking them with such projects. We have come to realize that there is not too much value in conducting traditional student exchanges where the students come to the university and they learn whatever they learn and then go back to their countries of birth without having engaged with the communities where the university is located. And this is something that has been long neglected, so we are trying to intentionally ensure, because students come, they know Nelson Mandela University, but they don't really know the community or the people where Nelson Mandela University is located. You would find, for instance, that in Nelson Mandela University, out of its 4,000, 5,000 staff members, only a few are from Port Elizabeth. So in South Africa, the majority of people are migrant workers from different provinces and communities. So we do not, in ourselves, really, we are also in the process of learning what Abeja is all about. We do not possess that culture, but it is the people there that understand, and we are trying to purposefully ensure that our student gets to experience that. But this is also a risky terrain at the same time, because there is a term, we call it poverty pornography, I'm sorry, in South Africa. So there is a term called poverty pornography in South Africa, where we are really saying that we need to be very, very sensitive to some of these aspects that we are doing, just so to ensure that there is not really an explicit exposure of the living conditions of people in the country and in communities.
I have a follow-up question regarding Dr. Robinson's concern and your answer to that. So if the Norwegian students come to NMU and are engaging in community projects, my question would be whether they come on a internship visa or student visa, because I believe that since last year the South African national government cancelled the opportunity, at least for German students, as far as I know, to obtain an internship visa, because as you stated, there is this phenomenon of sensationalism of poverty that should be avoided. So, but still, I think relating to what you presented, would be good in perspective to focus on the thematic orientation of international projects and not just engage in short-term solutions for student exchange and mobility.
That's a very good follow-up question. So yes, it's true that so this is actually a little bit of a slight differentiation that we would need to do, because one thing for sure is that because of the challenges of unemployment in the country, the aspect of internship in South Africa is very, very sensitive, and mostly the internships have to be reserved for locals. But then we need to differentiate that with experiential learning, or where students are coming to learn about a certain aspect and then are not necessarily deriving any stipend from the university, from Nelson Mandela University, or the communities in which they are engaging. So there is that slight differentiation, which is not exactly yet incorporated in the legislation of a country. So what we do in Nelson Mandela is for our students to write them a motivation of indicating that this is actually an experiential learning. So it's not necessarily a traditional internship, because in terms of internship in South Africa, the students have to get a certain amount of payment, but we have to clearly distinguish that. And we have, of course, ensure that most of our universities that are sending students for experiential learning or internships, we want them to give us the list of the students that they've nominated, so that we can assist them with writing the letters to the embassies for them to be able to apply for this, because it's easier coming to us when the embassy they will call us to try to find out what kind of program is this. So in certain instances, we are able to say, look, this is it's not a paid, it's an experiential learning as part of the cooperation that we have. But otherwise, sometimes you would find that the students would go to the embassy themselves and then apply for an internship, but because they are not aware of the background and the differentiations that are required, obviously it will be said that no internships.
Okay.
Yes. So we are, as I've said, purposefully ensuring that there is that integration of experiential learning in our programs, and we are trying to build programs in that regard. I've had a meeting with the business school in Nelson Mandela University, but it's not necessarily that we are also looking at short-term learning programs. They're called SLPs in South Africa. Short learning programs. We are looking at short learning programs with the business school that have got that aspect of community engagement, where we are planning to be able to pair the students that are coming on service learning training with our students who are exactly in the same field, to be able to conduct some of this experiential learning work in communities. So it's something that is still at conception, but I'm sure that in the second half of next year, we will be able to try to offer some of this. And this will be able to assist us, because we really recognize the need for our students to be able to do that. And if you check, we are now in Nelson Mandela University advocating for a very strong, or in the international office at least, for a very strong internationalization at home program. We recognize that in terms of the exchanges that are there, student exchanges, because of the difference in the levels of the rich and the poor, it's very difficult for us as Nelson Mandela University to send students to universities, say in Germany, on an exchange program when it is easy for the German universities to do that. So, but we are trying to look at how can we do to ensure that even if our students are not traveling, but they tend to get the same benefits and value out of the students that are coming to our university. So we are building along that, and we will ensure that at the end we are going to make sure that we pair students with our students just for that purpose of experience learning, exchanging of views, and so forth and so forth. So in the long run, we believe this is the only way that is going to internationalize our students even when they are sitting at home.
Any more questions? I know this presentation has become quite academic also for you students probably, but please don't be shy to ask anything about the organization of a semester abroad in South Africa, anything that comes up in your mind.
So you had raised your hand earlier?
Yeah, also her, yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask the second time because we already had a chat yesterday because of when we're applying. So we would apply for next year in Germany, it's the winter semester, that we would come in, I think it's end of July
Yes.
to Nelson Mandela University.
Yeah.
But to apply also for Nelson Mandela University, I think the due date was like the 30th of April.
Yes, 30th of April to 15th of May, mostly around the period, yes.
And I was just thinking about like are there any special informations you additional need from us? Like there was a motivation letter and our transcript of records, but I don't know, like anything further on that we could prepare maybe already or?
Not a motivation, but for every student. So say we enter into a student mobility agreement with your university. For every student that will travel to or come to our university, we need a 2.5 GPA score. I'm not sure how much that is within the European context, but we need a 2.5 GPA score, which necessarily means that we cannot be able to admit students that have just come to the university because we are not able to see what their university score
So
are.
there has to be a number of BTCs that we already have.
No, minimum record
Minimum,
average.
yes.
Sorry, I think they might need the room after 1 p.m. Just going to stand here and not let anyone in.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think
Yeah.
we would need to confirm that in written form.
Yes, yes. So that is the general minimum requirements for our university. So to ensure that we do get the students in. But because remember, once we have agreed on the number of places with your university, it is up to the university to do the selection, the processes and everything. What we need from a university is the transcript of record. We will send the application form, and then you will have to fill the application form, and we will tell you what we need in the application form. But the most important thing is we will be able to, as well after we receive the nominations, to be able to send you the invitation letters that you are going to use for your visa application.
Okay. I suggest we wrap up with 1 or 2 last questions, if any.
Yes?
I was wondering, since you presented the joint projects between South Africa and Germany, is it possible as a student as well to participate in one of the projects while on the semester abroad?
Yes. It's possible. So basically, the majority of our joint projects will be with certain departments. So if, of course, the joint project is in your department or within the field that you will be studying in, there are no exclusions in that regard. But then, of course, it won't be possible, for instance, for a student who's coming from the business school to want to go and do a marine related or
Yeah.
coastal related, yes. But in terms of the joint projects that are there in your faculty and within the field that you are admitted in, you will be able to do that. So basically, all German students that come to South Africa, to Nelson Mandela, they are our students. That's the basic point. But of course, the only exclusion that we are going to get is that you wouldn't have the opportunity to embark on our student mobility program because already you're on a mobility program. That's the only exclusion. Just one last hand. Okay, then we wrap up. Thank you very much from my side. I'm very much thankful of this opportunity to be here in this historic city of Nuremberg, but also to have had the opportunity to speak to you colleagues, and I'm very happy and I'm hopeful that we are still going to receive these inquiries from the international offices from you guys. So you can check on the university system, on our university. My email address will be there, or even Anne-Catherine can give you my details. So for anything that you need to inquire, please write to us. We will be able to assist you. But of course, it must be because you want to come to Nelson Mandela and not UCT or any other university in South Africa.